Hey guys, it's Kirsten. So someone submit this picture about getting rid of the shadows against the wall. Um, this is, I like the baby's lit great. The catch lights are great. Um, Easily avoided by aiming the lights at the backdrop or turning it a different way. If you can see it in the picture, readjust because you don't want to spend time editing because that kills your dollar per hour. Okay, I just feel the need to say that. Okay, so now we're going to do a couple things. So one, we want to put the baby and the hands on a separate layer. So I always start right here. Um, where am I? Right up here. The object selection tool. Sometimes it's great, sometimes it's not. So let's just see. We're going to get some of the hands because I don't want to select the whole picture. I want it to tell it just to select the baby. Okay. It did a great job over on her right, but not so much on her left. So we're going to now change over to the quick selection tool. Make sure it's on the plus sign. And let's see. We're going to say, hey, we want these hands. It's hard when things are monochromatic. That looks pretty good. I think these are her pants. Let's see if we can select that, whoops, as well. You can hold down the Alt key to switch it to the negative, and we're gonna, oh, wait a minute, sorry, we want positive to erase that because we want to tell it we do want that. Ah, see, that's what it did. That's what makes me nuts. Now I'm gonna hold the Alt key down. See, it's gonna have a hard time with her little shirt because it's almost the same color as the backdrop. Okay, that to me is going to be good enough. And then we'll deal with inside of her bracelet later. Let me see if I can just get her finger up. Control Z or Command Z goes back a step. We're going to have to deal with her fingertip later. Okay, or maybe selecting and masking will work. So, okay, so now that we did the selection, we're going to hit select and mask. Okay, so I have it on onion skin right here. And then everything else is the kind of default, I guess, default settings. And then down below, we're going to put output to a new layer because that way we can tweak it if we have to. So we're going to click on over on the left here. Looks like a paintbrush on fire. I don't know what it is. And we're just going to make sure your little selection here is really tiny. And we're just going to go around the edge of her hair to get those little tiny fuzzies. And then same thing, go right around the bow, because there's little hairs coming off it, little linen. I'm going to trace the thumb and just the fabric right over here. Anything that looks like it could be not really super smooth. Maybe go around this hand. I just want the very edge of the circle, just kissing it. I don't even know if we can use the bracket keys to make it smaller. Okay, that might be good enough. We can fix it. There's a little space by her ear, but we're going to leave that. Everything else looks good. So we're going to output to a new layer, and we're going to hit OK. Okay, so now the baby is on a separate layer. Let's turn back on the background layer. Okay, I always Control or Command J to make another layer, because the last thing we want to do is screw up something we can't go back on, right? So on this layer, I'm going to get the paintbrush. And you're going to hit the right bracket key to make it a little bigger. Now, we don't want it to be a solid color because nothing is a solid color ever. And when it's a solid color, it usually looks, you can tell it's edited poorly. So I'm going to select a color right by her little baby armpit. Oh my gosh, hang on a second. Let's right click and make sure the hardness is all the way down so it doesn't look like garbage. There we go. Okay, now we're going to select a little part right by her little armpit there. We can go up like that. Now let's get a copy by the get a select, by the wrist. So what I usually do is, click paint, click paint, click paint. Let's see what happens to that. Now we can go in and select a color right in here. Now, you can always lower the opacity, like let's do like 30. And then you can select over here, make the brush really big, and just kind of just tap, tap, tap right over here. Okay, now I should have done the refine edge around her fingers because you can see a little bit of a halo, but I have an idea for that. So we're going to just hold off on that for a second. Let's go on to the baby and put a layer mask and get a black brush. So hit D and then X. That makes it black, white, and then black on top. Use the bracket key to get itty bitty. I can also zoom in more, which is what I would do. Whoops, let's put it back up to 100%. So you can see why you're not going to want to do this with every single picture. But you can go in and trace off that halo. Whoops. Anyway, I'm not going to do it for this video because that would be silly. So how would we get that original finger back in? Let's see. So we're going to have to go put a layer mask on this layer. So you can see by turning off that layer, you can see the fingers. So let's try putting a layer mask. And now we can paint the finger back in. I also made a boo-boo right there. And now we can click X to make it white, because, white reveals, black conceals, or whatever that. Now we can go back in. So knowing about layers and how to view layers and how to manipulate layers, I have videos on that as well. So you can see nothing was happening over here because we have to go back onto this layer mask. Make sure it's a black brush. And we can continue taking off that halo. Okay, and then we can always touch up the bracelet. I'm not going to do it for this video because it's like watching paint dry. You guys will be like, this is boring. Okay, I'll just do a quick little do-do-do. Obviously, you'd zoom way up and take care of that. Okay, double click on the hand to make it full size. Look at it. Actually, I like looking at it a little bit smaller. Okay, so that's cute, right? But we're not done yet. That's what I did on the other one, but let's get back to that. Okay, so we're going to click back to the background copy layer here, not the baby. The baby is on top. The copy of the baby is on top. We're going to go back to this layer right here, and we're going to go File and Place Embedded or Place Linked, either one. Go to where you store all of your textures. This is where I store all my textures. I have one. These are ones that I created that I sell on Etsy, but you can find textures anywhere. I think I used this one because it looked very similar in hue, and I wanted something a little darker than these. All right, so now you can see it's behind the baby. Pull it a little bit past. Now hold down the shift key so the aspect ratio doesn't change. Or does change, I should say. Click on OK. Oh, you can see the fingers right here. So how you would fix that is, that would be on the baby copy. So get a black brush. You can also quick select, but that's more advanced. I'm just going to go quick. Obviously, you're going to take more time. Use the bracket keys to make. And again, we're pixel peeping up in here. But that's unnecessary. No one's going to view your picture at 300%. But okay. So now on this layer, I think I actually want it just to get a little texture in the background. I think that's real cute. So on this layer, I'm going to select the elliptical marquee. I'm going to put my feather real high at like 500%, 500 pixels, sorry. We're going to just select the baby. Now this is a preference thing. I'm just going to darken the edges. Now in a what's the word I'm thinking of? A seamless motion, you're going to go Control Shift I or Command Shift I, Control J. That puts the background layer, and we're going to switch it to multiply. So you can see it just kind of darkens the edges, but I don't want it that dark. So we're going to, 48%, I don't know. Then what I usually do is put a layer mask on that and get a black brush and just make sure none of that got on the baby. Just do a couple little clicks. I kind of like it either way. So I guess it doesn't really. I can try doing the hold the shift key. I love how that texture looks. Then what I always do is add a layer mask, get a black brush, lower it real low to like 20, we'll do 24. And just do little tiny kisses to bring some of the original back, just around her body. That gets rid of any like halo that might be kind of pronounced. And that's where I would leave it. Ta-da! I hope this helps.